like right now. Okay, let's get into it. So let's just start with the quote that freaks everyone out. This is a real statement from the CEO of Anthropic, one of the biggest AI companies out there. And wow, does it capture that anxiety we're all feeling? This idea of a coming white-collar apocalypse, especially for anyone just trying to get their career started. I mean, that is a terrifying prediction. 50% of jobs gone. But is it actually happening? Is the apocalypse already here? Well, to answer that, we can't just rely on predictions. We have to look at hard, real-world data from inside companies and from the payroll records of millions of actual workers. First, let's take that 30,000-foot view. Let's zoom out. What really happens inside a company when it starts pouring money into AI? Do they just start firing people left and right to slash costs? Well, the answer is probably not what you think. So, contrary to that whole apocalypse story, it looks like the opposite is true. Research from Brookings, which looked at thousands and thousands of companies, found that firms that adopt AI, they actually grow. They innovate more, they file more patents, they create new stuff. And here's the kicker. On the whole, they end up hiring more people, not fewer. And we're not talking about a small bump here. The data's pretty clear. Over a 10-year span, companies that really invested in AI saw their sales grow about 20% faster than companies that didn't. AI, it seems, is a really powerful engine for growth. And here's the part that sounds completely backward. That 20% growth in sales, it was matched by a 20% growth in hiring. So if you're just looking at the company level, AI isn't a job killer. It's actually fueling the growth that leads to more jobs. So, case closed, right? AI is good for everyone. Well, you know it's never that simple. The story of what happens to the total number of jobs at a company, that's just one piece of a much more complicated puzzle. To really get what's going on, we have to zoom in from the company to the individual worker. And this is where this incredible paper with a perfect title, Canaries in the Coal Mine, comes into play. It doesn't just look at total head counts. No, it digs into the payroll records of millions of individual people to see if there are any early warning signs, to see who might be the most vulnerable in this new world. Now, the reason this study is such a big deal is the data they used. They got access to this absolute treasure trove of information from ADP, the biggest payroll company in the US. This gives us this amazingly detailed, almost real-time look at who's getting hired for what job at what age ever since this whole generative AI boom kicked off in late 2022. And when they looked at a field that's obviously super exposed to AI, like software development, whoa, the results are just stunning. While hiring for experienced developers, we're talking 35 and up, actually grew by 8%, it absolutely plummeted by nearly 20% for young, entry-level developers. Those are two completely opposite things happening in the exact same job at the exact same time. And look, this wasn't just some fluke in the tech world. When they looked across all the jobs that had the highest exposure to AI, they found the same pattern, a 16% relative drop in employment for workers between 22 and 25 years old. This is the canary in the coal mine. It's a huge signal that something fundamental is changing for people just starting out. So let's just pause and break down what this is telling us, because it's absolutely crucial. The pain is not being spread around evenly. Not at all. It is hitting the youngest people in the workforce and hitting them hard. Meanwhile, their more experienced colleagues are doing just fine, or even better than before. And funnily enough, this isn't about pay cuts. Wages are holding steady. This is purely a story about who is and who isn't getting hired. Okay. So what on earth is going on here? Why is AI basically helping one group and hammering another in the exact same profession? Well, the answer comes down to the two very different hats that AI can wear at work. AI can either automate or it can augment. Think of automation as substitution. It's when the AI does the task instead of a person. And this is happening most with those routine, predictable tasks. The exact kind of work we usually give to junior employees. Then you have augmentation. That's complementation. That's when the AI acts like a superpowered assistant that makes a human way better and faster at their job. And that's what seems to be happening for the experienced folks. And this whole split between automation and augmentation, it really boils down to the kind of knowledge being used. See, AI is amazing with what's called codified knowledge. That's the stuff you can write down in a textbook or a manual. It's book smarts. But AI is still pretty bad with tacit knowledge. That's the intuition, the judgment, the little tricks of the trade you can only learn from years of doing the job. Young workers mostly have codified knowledge to offer. Senior workers have that deep well of tacit knowledge. All right, so now let's put these two giant puzzle pieces together. We have the big picture view of companies growing, and we have the super detailed view of young workers getting hit hard. And when you combine them, you start to see the new reality of the job market taking shape right before our eyes. What we're seeing is that two seemingly opposite things can be true at the exact same time. Truth number one, the optimistic story is real. AI is making companies more productive and helping them grow. But truth number two, the pessimistic story is also real. That exact same AI is wiping out the simple routine tasks that have always been the training ground, the starting point for a professional career. You can think of it like a chain reaction. First, a company adopts AI to get more competitive and grow. Second, that AI takes over all the boring, repetitive, entry-level tasks. Third, that means the traditional first step on the career ladder, it just kind of vanishes. And fourth, the experienced workers, now superpowered by their AI assistants, become even more productive and more valuable. It's not job destruction, it's a great reallocation of work. So at the end of the day, the big takeaway here isn't that the robots are coming for all the jobs, not at all. It's that AI is fundamentally changing the shape of a career. That classic model where you start at the bottom, doing simple stuff and slowly learn the ropes and work your way up, that whole system is being disrupted in real time. And that leaves us with this huge, critical question. AI isn't destroying the career ladder, but it seems to be removing the first rung. So how is the next generation supposed to get on? What becomes the new entry point into a professional career when all the old apprenticeships are automated away? That, right there, is the challenge we all need to figure out.